So on the first day, we went up into the mountains. Initially, we thought we were going to go to the island of Evia, but we went to the Peloponnese. And initially, we were just sort of recceing this sort of mountainside. It was heavily forested. There was fires moving through the area. And then we began to undertake the work we were doing that day was called blacklining.
USAR is like urban search and rescue, so we can go anywhere in the UK, including Northern Ireland, to help at any disaster, etc. At a moment's notice, you'll get paged, and then you'll meet up and go to the rendezvous point. And basically, it's the groundwork that we would prepare ourselves for international rescue. It's everything from train crashes.
We just undertook an exercise over in Manchester. That was to test our response to a large-scale incident. There was heavy lifting. There was breaching and breaking through the concrete, confined space work. Firefighters who maybe aren't aware of what UKFRS is about and what USAR is about were there making these rescues, often from sort of well-in-tuned places, casualties that are well and truly stuck as such.
One day we were walking off the hillside and people coming out of the houses and thanking us, offering us a bottle of water, and they were just so grateful that we were there helping. That's my proudest moment.
So wildfires in this country aren't anything like what we faced when we went to Greece. As you say, the experience I've had from other exercises and other sort of overseas exercises and the training we have, it sort of sets you up and you're prepared, you're relaxed.
I think it's just patience and self-awareness as well. So when people start to get tired, you normally start to get cranky and a bit short with people. But if you've got that awareness, you can get on as part of a team better. Sometimes just step back from the situation you're in, have a breather and then go back to it.
Our training and everything leads us to be able to cope with these situations and deal with that. We know we're going there to do a job.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast. Today on the podcast, I'm welcoming my good friends Tracy, Joe and Dani. These are members of the UK Fire and Rescue Service and also members of the UK International Search and Rescue Teams. Today we're going to be discussing the incredible scenes that we saw in the hills of Athens and suburbs of Greece that are still lined with rows of burnt trees after fires ripped through the area in August 2021 as they experienced some of the worst wildfires on record. Now, forest fires are an annual occurrence in the Mediterranean, but various factors have caused stronger heat waves and longer, more intense annual fire seasons. Now, on average, 80% of the burned areas across Europe occurs in the Mediterranean. Now, the summer of 2021 was also one of the worst on record. Wildfires tore through the entire region from Tunisia to Algeria in the south of Spain, Italy and Greece. Now, in southern Turkey and Greece, residents and tourists fled areas that were absolutely ablaze as authorities struggled to deploy enough firefighting resources to battle against the worst affected areas. Now, various news outlets across the world had reported that fires caused at least 86 deaths. Now, as part of the UK government's response to this, they called upon some of our incredibly skilled members of the UK Fire and Rescue Service, and a team of firefighters, including Tracy, Joe and Dani, went out to support this response. And today I'm speaking with them about their experiences and a little bit more around the work that UK International Search and Rescue is involved in. This is a really incredible organisation and it's an absolute privilege to be able to work alongside them. But one thing we rarely do is be able to capture the experiences of the people who go on these deployments. So today we're really going to talk about what's involved in being part of the team, what was it like to get the call, what was it like to go out on that deployment, the different cultures, the different backgrounds, and some of the skills that Tracy, Joe and Dani were able to utilise when they went out on this deployment, as well as all the stuff that they learned themselves. So I hope you enjoy our conversation today. I always love getting together with these. It's the first time we have done a podcast with 4 people on it, and all of this was done virtually, but I think we made it work. Now, before we jump in there with Tracy, Joe and Dani, I just want to touch base with a few of our partners of the podcast. First up today is the wonderful William Wood watches. These are a luxury watch brand with some fantastic history in the industry. Late grandfather of the owner, William Wood, was in the British Fire Service for 25 years. Now his grandson, Johnny, runs the company, celebrating these heroes, sharing that courage, that bravery, and keeping the dream alive with the role models in the fire service all over the world. When you jump over to the website, you'll see their Valiant collection, the Bronze edition, the Chivalrous collection, and new this year out was the Triumph collection. I wear it when I'm swimming, when I'm diving, when I'm training, and of course when I'm out there in my operational role on the front line. They go into some great detail with them as well. I love when I look at the 12 on mine, it's actually got those 2 collar markings as it's 12, and then if you switch it on its side, it's even got the British brass Firefighters helmet on the inside of the watches. I was speaking with Johnny recently about the new Triumph collection, and when you flip them over, if you look at the back of the watch, it actually says on it, in case of fire, break glass, with that William Wood on the inside of it. It looks fantastic. I mean, the ideas and the innovation that's gone into these. It's waterproof, it looks good, it feels good, it gets the job done. So for more information, head over to williamwoodwatches.com and check out their beautiful collection right now. The best way for you to support the podcast is to jump on over and have a look at some of our partners. We don't just pick them arbitrarily. These are people, organizations, and brands that we've developed a relationship with because we sincerely believe they're going to add value to yourself. So if you're feeling ready, we're going to jump in there with Tracy, Joe, and Dani. So if you are sitting comfortably, let's buckle up for safety, and I will see you crazy cats on the other side.
Hello, good evening.
How are you?
Tired. I did a job last night. Person's reported, so not had much sleep.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Are any of you on the recruitment next week?
No, I'm not on the flood response course.
Oh, that's wicked as well. I think 36 or 32 recruits for next week's thing, which would be wicked.
Fantastic. Are you going up as part of the DS, are you?
Yes. Hey, handsome.
Hey.
Right, ganglang. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you, mate. Can you hear me?
Beautiful. Yeah, you sound fantastic. Your audio is great. So, ground rules. There are no ground rules. Next, rule number 2. I think this is the first time that we've probably had 3 people on the podcast at once. So it's either going to go really well or it's going to be a colossal mess where we continually interrupt each other. But either way, I think we're going to get through it at the end of it. So we'll see how we go. I was desperate to have you all on because you were all part of the UK Fire and Rescue Services deployment to Greece. Obviously, we've done a little bit of work together in the past, but I really wanted to get you all on to get an understanding and give other people more than anything else an inside look into what it is like to be involved in a deployment like that and to appreciate how wide stretching some of the roles of firefighters are. So what was the sort of background behind how the sort of deployment came in?
Initially, I got a phone call from my site logistics manager and basically gave me a call, and I returned it and said, are you fit and well and fully vaccinated, because we're going to be sending you guys out to Greece. And basically that was how I found out about being deployed. About 24 hours notice, I had my bags packed and frantically trying to get other bits and bobs done at work before we flew out the next day.
So you had 24 hours notice. That's quite a surreal sort of thing. I mean, now, I want to give people a little bit of background because we all sort of know each other because we are all part of UKISAR. Now, this wasn't specifically a UKISAR deployment, but for anybody that's unfamiliar with it, we have got Russ Godin, the National Coordinator, coming on. But what is UKISAR and how did you all kind of get involved in that?
Is the UK's international search and rescue team. So if there's any major disasters worldwide, their governments may ask for assistance from other nations, so they'd ask for UK assistance to help them out. Normally it's for natural disasters like earthquakes, tsunamis, flood response, things like that. And we're ready to deploy 24 hours a day, 365 days a year from 18 different fire and rescue services.
So it's pretty much like the Thunderbirds. Is that what we're saying? How long have you been part of it, Dani?
Only 7 months. I'm new to the team.
So there's people that have been in the team for years and years and have never had the privilege and or responsibility or have never necessarily been called upon to do an international deployment. But 7 months and you had the opportunity to go out and do the Greece.
Yeah, I can't complain about it at all. I was in the right place at the right time. My previous history, I was a nurse in the army, so the skills from the army have helped. So I'm used to going on deployments and I've got medical skills.
How long were you in the army for?
13 years.
13 years. Crikey. Did you do much travel when you were in the army?
Yeah, fair bit.
You see, I think that's the bit we all miss out on. People that dream of sort of joining the army and traveling the world, and you actually got a chance to do a little bit of that.
Yeah, I never carried it over to the fire service, so I can't complain. I'm very lucky.
Love it. Joe, when did you first join ISAR?
So I got into ISAR the very beginning of 2019. So I've been in nearly 3 years now, I suppose, 3 or so years.
What's some of the work that you've been part of? Because they do run a load of exercises throughout the years as well. What did you first think it was going to be like when you joined it, and what's your experience has been?
So I had a good idea of what it was going to be about. It was something I'd always aspired to get involved with. And I knew the sort of the history and everything that the ISAR got involved with. Fortunately, as Dani, right from the off, I went to Sicily. I've been on teams about 3 months. I went to Sicily on a training exercise. And obviously we've been to Greece. And in between that, we get involved in lots of training exercises. The good thing about ISAR is we train with people from all over the country. You meet people from all different services, and on a regular basis, every couple of months, we all meet up and there's a training exercise going on.
So how, when you say there's training access going on, for other people in the services, they think it's just getting together, throwing some ladders up, putting a dam together, throwing BA on and stuff like that. These are quite large scale simulated deployments, aren't they? I mean, we went to Kinverstan was one of the most recent ones. What do these look like when these deployments get put together? Because they're usually in the middle of nowhere, aren't they?
They are, yeah. So as you say, Kinverstan, that was in the Midlands, in some sort of open countryside. And during those exercises, we've been learning various skills. So not only do we sort of undertake the roles of rescuing sort of casualties within these environments, but we also undertake sort of, we call them wide area assessments and sector assessments, things like that. So we'll go in, we'll make an assessment of an area, see where our priorities lie, where casualties are concentrated, and where we can make those rescue efforts. So Kinverstan was heavily involved in that. And more recently, we just undertook an exercise over in Manchester. So it was a 36-hour exercise.
Love that one.
Yeah, it was a good exercise. Yeah, and that was to test our response to a sort of a large-scale incident. There was various scenarios set up at Manchester's training grounds, and that involved all aspects of the rescue work we undertake. So there was heavy lifting, there was breaching and breaking through the concrete, confined space work. Firefighters who maybe aren't aware of what UKFRS is about and what USAR is about, it's another sort of bow to the string in terms of firefighting. So no, we're not putting ladders up, we're not fighting fires. We're there making these rescues, often from sort of well-in-tuned places, casualties that are well and truly stuck as such.
Because we have like dog elements and all sorts. I mean, Trace, we always hear people saying like hashtag not just fires and stuff like that, but you make a great point there. Tracy, for anybody that's unfamiliar with it, USAR is a huge part of what we do in ISAR, but for most people they think of firefighting, and everyone that's in sort of the UK ISAR stuff are firefighters. But what is USAR? And so just sort of break down those little bits, because it's going to form part of our conversation as to what we go into.
Okay, USAR is like urban search and rescue, so we can go anywhere in the UK, including Northern Ireland, to help at any disaster, etc. At a moment's notice, you'll get paged, and then you'll meet up and go to the rendezvous point. And basically, it's the groundwork that we would prepare ourselves for international rescue. We have USAR exercises up in Lincolnshire or Moreton in Marshall, and again, we'll be doing different scenarios from, could be collapsed cranes, rescue, roller coasters, etc. If somebody's stuck on a roller coaster, we've done that before up in Lincolnshire. It's everything from train crashes to plane crashes, you name it. We go in, shore it up, dealing with many different casualties. We'll work with the DVI as well as the heart team now and again. And it's a massive spectrum of where we work with other services. We liaise with the LAS, etc. And that's what it's like in the real world. So it's we dress up in orange. We go into dangerous buildings and do dangerous things, and it's quite good fun. So you get to do all the stuff that you weren't allowed to do as a kid.
Because you see people doing that stuff, and you always wonder, or I always used to wonder, when you saw the big pictures of like a mass exercise, and you never quite knew who the people who were doing things like hot cutting and chainsawing, because it seems obvious that they're a skill set we can learn, but I think my mindset 10 years ago was so far away from what the fire service do in those aspects as well. So we have chainsaw experts, we have hot cutting, we have rope rescue, we have breaking and breaching, we have shoring. It really is a massive range of stuff that you get to. In terms of professional development, had you done any of this before you joined UKISAR, or was it all just like a whole opening for you?
I've been in USAR for I think about 13 years now, 12, 13 years. So I've been heavily involved in certain incidents within London, and it's a great presence actually because we have specialist training. We are trained to look out for cracks, how the building works, how it sounds, what to look out for. So we're trained in many different aspects of our role, from chainsaw to hot cutting to confined space. We've got people that are fantastic with U5, which is shoring. I've seen some amazing shores, especially the one up in Manchester recently,
when we did
which was done by a couple of guys. That was phenomenal. Yeah, that was absolutely
fantastic. That took
fantastic.
them ages. I think when they got tasked to do that, we went off to just do a simple pancake collapse on somewhere else, and they got sent to that bridge. I bet they spent about 16 hours doing that. It took ages.
It was absolutely phenomenal because I was in logistics, so I didn't actually get to see what was going on. And I had a bag of cable ties and escorted Dani down into the area to get these cable ties to give to whoever needed them, just so I could go and have a look to see what was actually going on. But getting back to USAR, basically it is our backbone really to prepare us for international rescue because we do the same roles, etc. What we train for the UK. It's just such a diverse workforce, really. We've got people that, are very, very keen and will do their utmost for anybody.
I think that's a massive aspect to it, that keenness, because when I first got into it, I felt like a massive pressure with the tremendous amount of skill set. I mean, Dani, you say you've only come into it sort of 7 months ago. Did you ever feel a pressure to try and maintain all of these skill sets? And how is that made different by the sort of mindsets that you're working with? Because I always feel like there's never anybody pointing fingers in UK, so it seems quite a supportive environment.
Yeah, there is a lot of skill sets, and as I am new to the team, I do feel under pressure, but we've had the training, so I've done my USAR training, my 1 and 2, and everyone just helps everyone out, which is great. So again, with UK ISAR, we're meant to be self-sufficient, or we are self-sufficient, so I'm used to living in the field and all those things, so we won't be a burden on another country if we went there.
Joe, I wanted to ask about when you guys sort of first got that call. What was your perception of what you thought was happening in Greece? So you obviously learnt about the wildfires. What did you think the challenges that people on the ground were actually facing, having already been to Sicily? You probably had a better understanding than maybe some of the other members of the team, but what did you think was happening there versus what did you actually see on the ground when you arrived?
So it was heavily publicised, wasn't it?
It was
saw
like
a lot
straight
of
into the eye of the public.
prior to going.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we don't necessarily see as much as we saw running up to that, and you were straight into the thick of it, weren't you? Yeah,
I mean, so wildfires in this country aren't anything like what we faced when we went to Greece. But that being said, we were never sort of in danger or a threat from it. But I mean, if we put ourselves in the shoes of those, the firefighters there must have been, there'd been the pressure of the public on them. Needing them to act to protect the property, to protect lives and all that. It'd be a stretch on resources. I mean, as you say, the experience I've had from other exercises and other sort of overseas exercises, that and the training we have, it sort of sets you up and you're prepared, you're relaxed. Our training, everything leads us to sort of to be able to cope with these situations and deal with that. We know we're going there to do a job, well trained. We have the equipment and the knowledge. As you said, we would have thought a bit more about sort of wildfires when we were going. So we had TACADs, they're called, tactical advisors from South Wales who travelled with us. They're specialists in the wildfire. And prior to going to any operational ground as such in Greece, we had a lecture with these a couple of hours. Just sort of, even though we've been trained in it in the past, they gave us sort of reinforcement of these skills and what to look out for on the incident ground and things like that.
Because, I mean, this sort of place, Tracy, is similar to the UK in respect of cultures and stuff like that. But I imagine some of the places that teams have been deployed to in the past, there's a massive cultural difference, isn't there? So we've done some of these sort of trainings over Zoom, and we've done a lot of stuff in person about pre-deployment and how we get familiar with it. What was the prep like before you went out there, and how does sort of UKISR prepare people preparing to deploy to cultures they may not be familiar with?
Well, a few years ago, I got sent out to India to teach swiftwater rescue with a couple of ISAR personnel.
That's a colossal difference. That's like, it's such an incredibly different culture. Yeah,
it was completely different culture, definitely. So, when you're being deployed overseas, make sure there's certain protocols and regimes you need to do, and abide by rules, etc. So when I did go to India, I made sure that I covered myself up. I had headscarf, etc. Because I didn't want to cause any disrespect to anybody or any cultures. Being very mindful of the area that you're working in, the language barrier, the heat, the food, everything is completely different. So, you kind of hit the ground running. With regards to ISAR as well, I mean, my only deployment for ISAR was with Greece. The UK Fire Service was with Greece. So it was completely two different situations and scenarios. One was a teaching base, and the Greek deployment was a massive learning curve. As Joe and Dani have said, we have heavy skill set, and most of the time when you do go overseas, you'd just be using your hands and a shovel. It's not meaning that you're going to use every piece of heavy gear going. It could just be your hands, shovel, just talking to local community, trying to build up a relationship with them, and getting them to trust you and realising that you're actually there to help and also educate. So being in India, the area that we went to was hit by earthquakes and flash floods. So we were teaching swiftwater rescue skills, not to jump in straight first off. There's other ways and means of rescuing people. Last resort is to throw yourself into the water, but also making them aware of if there's a building that's unsafe, look at the structure before you go in. If there's people in there, make sure that you can come out too. it's just making people more aware and highlighting the dangers and issues that are out there. But it's, it's most important to actually abide by religious cultures, and
that's the one that I always get worried about, because I'm always so interested and excited, a bit like a puppy. I always worry I'm going to end up causing offense to somebody just through my over eagerness to make friends and shake hands and all that sort of stuff. But it does take a strange amount of discipline. I love what you said about equipment and stuff like that, because sometimes the sheer mindset and experiences and the way that you develop a different perspective from being in the emergency services for such a long time, that's actually an incredibly powerful asset and tool in itself, isn't it? Like you say, everyone can look at a building or a river or a potential hazard, but it's that compound effect of a different way that you look at things that gives you a different lens through which to view hazards and how to behave around them, I suppose.
It's kind of just stepping outside the box and having a look back, just take that step back. I mean, I remember when I first started USAR, Urban Search and Rescue, and I remember going to these, a 36-hour exercise at Moulton in Marsh, and you turn up, and everything was, there was smoke, fire, helicopter noises, whatever else going on. You're just thinking, oh my goodness, you're completely overwhelmed with what's actually happening, what is going on. And then you learn, you're taught how to, your ASR levels, you're taught, to sectorize stuff. So don't just look at it as like, oh my goodness, it's literally the whole world is falling in. Yeah. Just sectorize like you would do a normal incident. Sectorize it like this person's doing this. You've got your TAC advisor, you've got your personnel, you've got your heavy team who's going in. It's all set up. You've got your ways and means and of
mentally
keeping a tally.
Compartmentalizing it as well, so that you are just focused on controlling the controllables. What's within your span of control, who are your team members, and what do you need to be executing on.
Yeah, and and achieve the objective. So it may take a couple of hours, it may take half an hour, 10 minutes. It depends. Sometimes there's snatch rescues, but what we do about background training, it's not just in order to get into the ISAR team, you do have to do some background training that will help you. It's like a feather in your cap. It's putting the muscle and the flesh on your bones as such to actually go in. You've got your hands on. About the equipment and your capabilities. And if you don't, as Dani has said before, and Joe, you've got the support there. You're not on your own. It's not, I've been in so many years and just get on with it. That people are there to actually support and help you and really encourage an environment.
It's that lack of egos, isn't it? Now, Dani, we've spoken a lot about equipment that we could use and equipment that we've seen and things that we've been trained on, but preparing for a deployment to somewhere like Greece for something like that, what actual equipment did you get sent with? I know there's a whole bunch of rigs and units and containers and all that sort of stuff, but logistically, it can't be practical to send all that with everybody. I mean, what did you actually get sent with, Dani?
Yeah, as we're all on the UK ISAR team, we've all got our own personal kit. So we always have our bags packed ready to go. So if there is a deployment, we're good to go. Even though it wasn't an ISAR deployment, a lot of personnel went from ISAR just because we were ready to go. As for kit for firefighting, from the Greeks, we understood that they just wanted people on the ground and people out there to help out. So we didn't actually deploy with any specialist kit and equipment. We just got kit and equipment when we arrived in Greece off the local firefighters.
Because the kit that we actually get prepped with over here, like our standard firefighting rig from the UK, not entirely appropriate for somewhere like Greece. I mean, they actually, what did you think the big differences were when you saw what they were kitted out with, vehicles and stuff like that? I mean, again, you've perhaps got quite a unique perspective, having done travel with the emergency services and frontline work before, but is there a big comparison? Because we see some of these third world countries that end up, I appreciate Greece isn't a third world country, but they get given old fire equipment sometimes because they perhaps can't fund it themselves. Was there a big difference in the kit and in the PPE and stuff like that, or was it stuff you were relatively comfortable with?
Yeah, when we deployed, we took all our own firefighting PPE with us. So we had our trousers, our tunics, our helmets, because we didn't know 100% what type of firefighting we'd be doing. There was a possibility that we'd be in the towns, working in the towns and structures and stuff, so we needed our structural firefighting kit. We also took Wildfire firefighting kit, which was just thinner overalls to wear to protect us. Just with the heat, we couldn't be wearing our big, thick UK-issued stuff.
Does it always feel a bit surreal when you see some of that Wildfire kit? Because we've had a guest on the podcast, I haven't put the episode out yet, but they talk about the smoke jumpers and how little kit they get deployed with when they go to some of these massive wildfires in Australia. And I think it's surreal how little they get given, because they're firefighting, but it's not... There's never any real direct contact with the fire, if that makes any sense. It's very much more of a cat and mouse chess style game, isn't it, when you see people tackling those sorts of incidents?
Yeah, that's what we found. The kit is a lot lighter weight, but we needed that because of the temperatures. If we wore the kit that we wear in the UK, we wouldn't have lasted 2 minutes. We would have all gone down with heat stroke and heat exhaustion. The kit the Greeks actually had, as you were saying before, about they get older equipment and stuff like that. The fire engines were older than ours, but they were fit for the job. They had like 4-wheel drive ones, so we could get onto the hillside, the mountains. So they were brilliant.
I always think we're a little bit spoiled in the UK. You know, sometimes we moan about our equipment, and it really is very, very good stuff that we get to play with, really. Joe, so when we actually got into country, how many people actually went as part of the team?
So there was 21 of us who deployed. There was one, we had Group Manager Brown, who was the officer in charge. We had 4 TACADs from South Wales, and the rest of us were firefighters made up from MISAR, purely because we're ready to deploy. As we discussed, it was a home office deployment as such.
And you've already got a lot of those other modules that you've completed about, like you say, awareness when you're in country, being able to be self-sustainable. We've just got a much tighter way of sort of keeping our own personal admin involved and that sort of stuff. When you actually got deployed into the country, what were some of the tasks that you first got asked to undertake?
So on the first day, we went up into the mountains. Initially, we thought we were going to go to the island of Evia, but we went to the Peloponnese, and initially we were just sort of recceing this sort of mountainside. It was heavily forested. There was fires moving through the area. And then we began to undertake, the work we were doing that day was called blacklining. So the idea is you separate the burnt stuff from the unburnt stuff, and it's like building a fire break, if you like. Where the fire would die out overnight, it'd leave a char line. And then as the temperatures rose during the day, that would obviously heat, and then it kicked the fire off again. So by blacklining, we pull all that back into the already burnt stuff and prevent it from starting the next day. And moving forward from there, the jobs varied between sort of blacklining and opening up roads again to gain access for some of the fire appliances. So on one particular day, there was a tree that had fallen across the road. We successfully sort of moved that tree and opened the road up again, and then went further up the road to a village where we sort of protected the livelihoods of the people there. So there was olive gardens around this property, and they sold sort of olives as their livelihood. So we blacklined around their property. Much of the work was based around that. It wasn't, again, these fires are so big, you're not going to be at the fire front putting water on it. You're using other tactics to put the fires out, or to protect property, or to prevent spread. Was that also work that was done by hand then, or was it actually getting vehicles involved and sort of digging out and stuff like that? Yeah, a lot of it was by hand. So the equipment we were given was chainsaws. We have chainsaw operators within the team. We were given sort of axes and hose and things like that. So a lot of it was done by hand. One particular day, we got one of the Greek firefighters was using he actually had a tractor with a bit like a grass cutter on the back of it, and he was driving around sort of properties to cut back a lot of the bush, and we used the tractor to pull some of the trees out the way. But as Dani said, the vehicles we were using were mainly the sort of the Greek firefighting ones. I don't know if you know Mercedes Unimogs. These are really big, capable off-road trucks. I think I've seen a picture of them, yeah. They're bloody huge things. Yeah, they are huge, and they really are designed purely for going off-road. And we'd go up into the mountains, we'd put a bit of water on. Again, you're not on the fire front because it's so big. You'd be spot firing, so you'd see maybe a plume of smoke going up on the side of the hill, and you'd go and you get water on it before that became anything sort of significant. So when were the reports on the ground, Trace, that actually looked like you were starting to get on top of it?
Okay, so initially when we got deployed, it was a massive task. Basically, we were fortunate enough to have some TV crews follow us on our days that we were working out in the mountains, shall I say. And one of the actual crews that was with us actually had a drone, and the team that I went out with, they're actually drone team kind of guys that, used the drone back in the UK. There's a lot of teams out there that do that sort of stuff. We've had a company on called Drones for Good, and they sell a lot of those assets to people. Having that drone and actually getting it up into the air and take footage, digital footage and video, etc., and feed it right back, we were actually able to see the pockets of fire, the total devastation, because where we are, we can only see what's in front of our eyes, basically. And it gave us a massive 360 of quite a large scope of area that we were working in. Also, as Dani and Joe had said, there was engines that would literally turn up, go and put stop it from developing. We had aeroplanes come over, dropping loads of water from the sky. people were working around the clock to prevent fires. Unfortunately, for some unknown reason, we weren't allowed to actually do any firefighting or clearing at night with the actual Welsh guys that came over with us. They actually said that's the time when they would actually fight the wildfires because it's cooler. Temperature drops quite significantly, and it'd be an easier way of actually putting in barriers and preventing further fire spread. There was one occasion we were sitting down on the side of the road just having a bite to eat and replenishing our liquids, and the guys were able, they saw a fire literally just pop up, meters from where we were sitting, and they could actually read through the wind direction which way it's going to react, how it's going to come in. We're all going to run this way. They're like, no, don't go that way. You can get cut off because of the way. It's just unbelievable how they can actually read the way the fire would behave. Like we can read how a fire behaves within a compartment, but then to go out into a wildfire situation where we haven't got those skills because we're not wildfire trained, we're compartment trained. It was a massive eye opener. Those guys that we actually went out with from Wales were phenomenal. They were absolutely brilliant. So
seeing that scale of sort of damage, Dani, what was it like, and what were some of the more challenging parts of seeing so much forestry and so much property? Because in the UK we tend to we'll go to 1 or 2 or 3 properties that have been affected by fire, and that's hopefully the vast majority of the time that's kind of the worst extent of what we tend to get involved with. But how did it feel seeing that scale of damage? Because it's quite well known. I think there was 86 total deaths that were experienced during that period of time whilst they're over there. How did it feel seeing that sort of scale?
Yeah, when we were over there, we were firefighting up in the mountains, and there wasn't too many houses and homes where we were the first couple of days. So even though there was a lot of devastation in the forest and stuff, however, when we were going up to the work sites and walking back down, we were going through local villages, and the people there, they were just so grateful for the help. We come back to homes and thanking us.
What was the most proudest sort of moment whilst you were during your deployment? What was the best thing that you sort of felt most pride from being a part of?
Just being out there in general and helping out. So one day we were walking off the hillside and people coming out the houses and thanking us, offering us a bottle of water, and they were just so grateful that we were there helping. So that's my proudest moment.
What about yourself, Trace?
Again, I kind of agree with Dani actually, but also just how we all got on with together as a team. We'd actually never met before, apart from the people we went out with, from our own brigades. But just how well the team worked together, how we gelled. No object, no task was too big. We were all keen. We were all ready to get up and support each other. And I found it really, really quite overwhelming at times, actually. Again, with local community coming out and thanking us and offering us food, water. Some of them had lost their farms, their livelihoods, and just feeling immensely proud of what we were doing as a team. Working together, gelling. Really, that for me was fantastic to have that support from really experienced men and women.
Doesn't it always feel kind of surreal though? Because when people say thank you for stuff like that, you're doing exactly what you've been trained to do. And I always have that thing in my head where I'm like, you know what? It's the same as the person working behind the counter at Tesco's or, thanking somebody. Joe, proudest moment. I mean, you've been deployed into Sicily as well. So this is kind of the second time you've experienced UKISR and working with different people and a totally different environment. But what have you enjoyed most and what have you felt most proud about working with UKISR and different deployments?
It's the sense of achievement. I can first of all just reinforce what Dani and Tracy have both said. We were just there, as we said, doing our job. It's almost a strange feeling when people thank you because it is our job. But people were so grateful, and that made you proud. That was sort of humbling, People would approach you. I remember, I think Dani referred to one story. We were coming down off the mountain, and this lady had decided to sort of evacuate. And she was so sort of thankful as we were walking past. She spent time to talk with us, and then because she was leaving the house, she gave us some food and water that she was like, "It's only going to go off. Please take it." And as I remember, me and Dani in the airport prior to going, there was a gentleman in the lounge at the airport, and we got talking with him. And because of COVID, he hadn't seen his family in so long, and finally got the chance to go back home. But he was going back home to, I think, somewhere near Evia, where we saw really big fires and devastation. And the gratitude of him was unbelievable. And he just met us. We just got chatting, and that does make you proud. You're supporting people, you're helping people, you're making a difference.
I always think it's kind of surreal, the sort of people that you get to work with in these kind of situations, because they always seem quite relentlessly optimistic as well. I did want to bring a point that when you guys and girls are going off and doing these deployments, we are bringing a lot of different skill sets and experiences back to the UK Fire Service. But I did want to parody that with, and I know the podcast a lot of the time is all about being optimistic and saying how much we love a job and stuff like that, but sometimes there's people inside the fire services that don't like their job. Sometimes they don't enjoy it. And I often feel like they're sometimes got stuck in a bit of a rut. So I wanted to ask you guys, sort of having the different perspective and being able to go out and do different things, and how maybe that makes you a little bit more humble and a little bit more realistic about what the big range that we have inside the job. What sort of skill sets and mindset do you think doing stuff like this helps you bring back into your service? And, do you think it helps for people to get out of their comfort zone and do different things like stuff?
Yeah, of course. So the broadness of the experiences we gain from ISAR, the difficulties that we sometimes face and the stresses, it's on par with our day-to-day job. But it just gives you another sort of line of resilience. That's the sort of a characteristic that you need. Resilience, commitment. You've got to be obviously doing it for the right reasons, as I'm sure we all are. But it's almost, to be within ISAR, which is a voluntary role, you've got to be 100% committed to it. And when you're working around those people, it just builds that even stronger.
People have got to remember it is all completely voluntary. Nobody's getting an extra pay enhancement for it or anything like that. And a lot of it is hurry up and wait. A lot of it is go, stop. Right, now sit there and do, no, get ready, no, stop, sit down and wait. And you've got to have a lot of patience to do that. I mean, Trace, a big part of what makes it, I suppose, so unique is that aspect of teamwork. So I wanted to ask you, just before we close, what do you think are some of the essential characteristics to making a great team?
Patience, definitely patience. I mean, the guys and girls that I went out to Greece with, I personally were the best team I've ever worked with, to be honest with you.
I wasn't there.
Obviously, nearly the best team I've ever worked with. But it's my first deployment.
I got put on standby for Greece and I never got a chance to go. So this is a strangely bittersweet conversation for me, but sorry, carry on.
Sorry, Pete. So, this is my first deployment. I got so much out of this. So basically, the characteristics, willing to do something at the drop of a hat, willing to miss meals, not have any sleep, give up your family time. It's all voluntary. Your training is on your days off. It's a massive commitment, and if you're prepared to do that, then you will go places. It actually puts feathers in your cap, because you're going to see different parts of the world. It's not a jolly up at all. It's nothing like that. But you're getting experiences from things that you would never ever come across in the UK.
Yeah. And,
I don't know if I'll ever witness what we saw in Greece again. I hope we don't. You just have to have resilience and not give up. Even if you're feeling really shattered, tired, etc., your teammates pull together. It's you can't do it on your own. You do it as a team, and you have to have commitment and you have to have patience. As you said, it's a lot of powering up to wait around and not do anything. And next minute it's like go, and you haven't got time to even touch. Your feet don't touch the ground. You're literally hitting the ground running.
I mean, Dani, Tracy makes a good point there about, we talk about resilience, but I wanted to sort of double click on that aspect of sleep deprivation, because we've got a lot of recruitment happening all over the UK at the minute, but there's also stuff happening for not just UK Fire and Rescue Service, but UK ISAR. And I think one of the biggest tests is exactly what Tracy says there about that sleep deprivation. So many firefighters are great for 12 hours, and I'm sure they would have the opportunity to be great for even longer, but from your experiences in both the military and in the fire service, Dani, how do you think is the best way for people to cope with stuff like sleep deprivation? Because I'm going to throw it in there just because for some people it's the elephant in the room. People go, oh yeah, guys will be all right, X, Y, Z. They don't have got to worry about getting all ready and all that sort of stuff. But I've been on a couple of exercises with both of you now, and I sometimes think the girls last a little bit better with the sleep deprivation than some of the guys do. So what's some of the tricks to it, and what's the most challenging stuff with that sleep deprivation, Dani?
I think it's just patience and self-awareness as well. So when people start to get tired, you normally start to get cranky and a bit short with people. But if you've got that awareness, you can get on as part of a team better, and you won't start snapping people. Sometimes just step back from the situation you're in, have a breather, and then go back to it. We were talking about teamwork a lot as well, but looking out for one another as well. So recognising if one of your teammates is struggling or not, and that definitely helps out.
You see a lot of ex-military come into the fire service. What appealed to it about it for you, and what are the differences, good and bad, the good, bad, the ugly, the different bits that you see between the two?
I think it is very similar. And before I joined the military, I wanted to be a firefighter, but my local service wasn't recruiting. And after 13 years in the military, I still had the bug to be a firefighter. So that's why I went for a change. And even though my military career was brilliant, I don't regret it one bit. It's been brilliant. But yeah, we do have a similar mindset and similar values. So it's a lot of teamwork, commitment. You've got to be physically robust. You've got to be mentally robust. You want to help other people. It's very similar.
Love it. So listening to that, Joe, what do you think are some of the big characteristics? Because we've got people, we've got a recruitment course running next week. And what advice would you give to somebody? Obviously, you've been in it for probably the longest out of the group of us. What advice would you give to somebody that's looking to apply for it? Maybe they've been in the service for 8 or 10 years and they're looking for a little bit of a change. They've heard what you guys and girls are talking about and they want that little bit of something different. What advice would you give them if they were thinking about considering joining something like UKISR?
Just if you're considering it, put your name in the hat, go for it, give it 100% because you'll get back 100% from it. As I've said, we all, from around the country, we've all met each other and we work really well with each other. We've learned something from each other. You'll get lots out of it. If you're driven, motivated, committed, and you've got that side of you that just wants to give that little bit extra, then it's something brilliant to get involved with, Joe.
Love it. Any closing points you think, advice for anybody that's going for UKISR or anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about it?
I'd say go for it. It's a fantastic opportunity. I've always wanted to be involved with ISAR. As I said, I'm in the ISAR logistics team, and I know a couple of people that are actually going through the process next week. And I've just said to them, just be yourself. I said, you're going to
have to learn a lot about names offline. Tell me their names offline because I'm going for the DS next week. I'll make sure I pick them out in a good way.
Okay. Yeah. Give them some extra burpees. No, I'm only joking. That's mean. But, I did explain to the people, I spoke to a couple of people before it happens next week, and just said that, be prepared to give up your free time. It's a lot of your free time. It's a massive commitment. If you're going to be deployed and it's a family wedding or, something's going on, funeral, etc., said, you don't have to step up to every deployment. You can go at another stage. So please don't feel as though I've got to go on it and then you're missing a major family event. It's a massive commitment. And yet, it is tiring at times. But it's so worth it. What you put in is what you get out of it. And if you're committed and driven and are willing to do things at a drop of a hat for people you don't know, then I personally think it's very rewarding. And I don't regret going for the ISAR team at all. If you've got the opportunity to go for it, grab it with both hands and don't miss out on any opportunity it offers you.
Beautiful. Absolutely love it. Dani, anything you think we've missed there before we wrap it up?
Just that you've got to be in it to win it. When I applied for UKISR, I was relatively new in my firefighting career. I've been in the service for just under 2 years, but obviously my previous experience helped me and I worked hard.
Did you have anybody saying like, oh no, it's too soon for you, or wait your turn? Because I've been hearing that from people. They've literally just passed, they've done the recruitment, they've just passed their folders, they've passed their probation and stuff. They've seen this opportunity come up, and they have people in their watches and stuff like that going, oh, you need to get a bit more time under your belt first. And I'm like, nah, that's rubbish. Just go for it. Throw your name in the hat. I think it's harder to train a mindset than it is to train a skill set. So they've gone away and learnt the skill set, but if they've still got that eagerness, if you sit in the same place for a little bit too long, you get a little bit stagnant. I think it can be harder for some of those people. I've seen some really highly skilled people come into UKISR and find it hard to shake off that dogma of, oh, this isn't how we do it in wherever, Bedfordshire, Scotland, London, wherever. And you're just like, you need to be a little bit looser with your procedures and a little bit stronger with your values. Would you be right in saying that, or am I reaching a bit?
Yeah, I'm with you. There's always some people that are going to have different opinions to your own.
Yeah.
But you've just got to be true to yourself. And if you want to follow a path, then go for it. Nothing should stop you. And whatever the outcome is, the outcome is. So yeah, just train hard and go for it. I also think positivity breeds positivity. So you were saying it about people being stuck in a rut, and then if they start moaning and then everyone starts moaning, it just brings the team down. But I think we're fortunate to work in a team that we are really positive and we help one another out, and it just it boosts the team and it helps it out, so it works well.
It becomes naturally self-perpetuating, doesn't it? I always think the ISAR a little bit like the chicken and egg scenario. I'm like, does it attract positive people to it, or is it full of positive people, therefore that's all that you see? If you know what I mean. When you go there, there's nobody, with their head hanging down or looking to shirk something off or hiding away in a tent or something like that. Everyone's straight up and at it. And it's quite surreal if you have come from a watch or a station somewhere where maybe somebody's 6 months till retirement and you can't drag them off the sofa to come out and do some drills or something like that. It's quite a nice breath of fresh air for anybody that's still got a burning passion to add value beyond the limitations of their current service. Thank you, boys and girls. I really appreciate your time tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all soon on the exercise.
Cheers, Pete.
Yeah, and you, Pete.
Thank you very much.
Hey folks, it's me jumping back in just to say a massive thanks to Dani Scott, Tracy Doyle and Joe Dennehy. I'm pretty damn sure I've got his name wrong because I always pronounce Joe's name wrong, but hopefully that gave you an insight into some of the stuff that we do in UK International Search and Rescue. It's an incredible team to be part of. Those three are certainly some of my favourite humans in UK Fire and Rescue Service. And you know what, I do just want to have a quick thanks to their services and to the members of UK International Search and Rescue as well, who are happy for us to share these stories. Because you know what, frontline personnel, firefighters, police officers, paramedics, military personnel have been doing these incredible things for as long as the game has been going. But it's only in the past few years people have begun to open up a little bit more, and we are allowing these people to tell these stories for us all to truly appreciate what people are out there doing. And also for operational personnel to give them an insight into what's actually going on, if they want to get involved. What does it look like? What does it sound like? What are the experiences like? I'm pretty confident we captured exactly that in our conversation with Tracy, Dani and Joe today. So a quick spoiler alert, we are going to be releasing some more stuff alongside UK International Search and Rescue, as you heard in that episode. At the time of recording this episode, I then went off and was a part of one of the recruitment courses as the directing staff. And of course, I took some recording equipment along with me. So in a Flashpoint real soon, you're going to be able to hear from some of the course leaders, some of the other directing staff, and some of the recruits. It did get emotional at times. But before then, a quick thanks from me for coming back to the Firefighters Podcast. If you want to do me a favour, the only thing I ask is that whatever platform you're listening on, you do hit subscribe. It helps the team out, it helps the podcast out, and it also helps us know which episodes are doing the best, how they are received. And if you did enjoy this episode, if you're still listening now, then don't be selfish. Share it with somebody else. Stick it in the WhatsApp group, drop it on your social media channel, and until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, stay hungry, and we will see you again real soon right here on the Firefighters Podcast.